So I wanted to get this video out earlier, but it's just, I got holiday heart, I got lazy, and then I got a little work thing that I had to do that I didn't expect to do. So I'm a little late, but here are my top 10 movies of the year for 2022. Some of them are just kind of movies that maybe didn't deserve to be on the list, but I still enjoyed them nonetheless, so I wanted to include them. But just for some honorable mentions, the two superhero movies that I kept off the list that I kind of wanted to, Black Adam and Wakanda Forever. Now, Black Adam was like not a great movie. It was pretty stupid, but I'm a little bit of a DC shill, and I had a lot of fun with this movie and this character. I really liked The Rock's performance as Black Adam. He brought a stoic funness to it that was goofy, you know, it wasn't particularly well written, but the action was great, the character was great, the Justice Society was a nice addition, and they also created a fun contrast. I feel like the movie should have been a little bit more about just Black Adam versus the Justice Society. I didn't really think that they needed to include the actual villain of the movie, who was just another forgettable NPC villain from a DC movie that's CGI. But overall, it is a lot of fun. It was a nice addition to the DCEU, which is sadly coming to an end apparently. And then there's Black Panther, which had no right being as good as it was. I was kind of nervous about it. I didn't really like Shuri before Black Panther Wakanda Forever. She just always was a bit of an annoying character that was just kind of smart and knew everything and was automatically perfect. The beginning of this movie just humbles her so much because, you know, with everything she knows, she can't save her brother, and I found that to just be so compelling. This movie lost its main star, so that was another thing that counted against it, and they just do such an amazing job continuing this world and the story, which I wasn't sure I even really wanted to see after Chadwick Boseman passed away. So it was a very good continuation, and they definitely did his legacy a lot of justice. And then next, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I'm a huge Nick Cage fan, and just seeing this weird self-aware parody of Nick Cage playing himself and just goofing around with a drug lord is a lot of fun. I had a lot of laughs seeing it in theaters, and it was just a nice little surprise. Not too much else to go in on about it. It could have been paced, I guess, a little bit better, but overall very funny and very enjoyable, especially for a Nicolas Cage fan. And for my last honorable mention is Scream. Nice addition to the franchise. It's not anything crazy innovative with it, like it plays it a little bit safe, but it sets up the new characters nicely, honors the old ones pretty well, and I really look forward to see what they do next. But now finally getting into the list, number 10, Glass Onion. So this was one of the two movies that came out in December that I wanted to watch probably before I did the list. Ironically, those two movies ended up both being on the list, but I actually watched this movie yesterday because I thought I'd like it, but I didn't think that it would actually make it, but I thought, hey, you know, might as well give it a chance just in case, and it really pleasantly surprised me. I liked the first Knives Out a decent amount. I thought it was a fun mystery, decently clever. I kind of hate giving this franchise as much credit as it gets because, you know, you can pretty much single-handedly thank Rian Johnson for starting a trend of directors and creatives going after their fans. So despite my bias to not like him, I actually gotta say that these Knives Out movies are some of the most fun mysteries to come out of my recent memory, and I just found Glass Onion to be nice and enjoyable. I like the story. They had a lot of great twists, and as everything kind of unravels, it plays with your expectations on what you think a mystery should be, the cleverness of the mystery, and kind of calling that into question even. So although Rian Johnson's subversive take doesn't really work with a franchise like Star Wars or something where you're just crapping on established lore, I think it really works within his own franchise where he's working with his own characters. Now for number 9, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This movie is just one that appeals right up my alley. A lot of people I know were disappointed by it, but I had a lot of fun with it actually, especially with the horror elements of it. I think that what a lot of people were expecting was just a very big, gigantic, game-changing Doctor Strange movie with a lot of cameos and multiverse hopping. And in that respect, I understand that it's a little bit disappointing, but where it really buckles down and where I was very impressed with it is I really love the horror elements. It really pushes it to boundaries that the MCU really hasn't gone before. So it's just exciting to finally see the MCU kind of go a little bit more metal, a little bit more horror, and you get to see Doctor Strange with the cape of souls and everything. So, you know, that was just a great touch. Coming in at number 8, Avatar: The Way of Water. It's obviously been a long time since the first movie, and I did lose a little bit of interest. I always actually liked the first movie. I don't nearly have as much of a problem with it as a lot of people seem to. It is a basic story, but it works. The first movie's not the most original, but it's a movie that I enjoy, and I really get into the lore, kind of the world building. I think it all works really well. It's all, of course, very beautiful, and that carries into Avatar 2, and I think that it also slightly elevates it by bringing in, the family aspect to it. They make Quaritch a little bit more of a complicated character, and although they don't stoop to making him sympathetic, they definitely give him more layers than he had in the first movie. I was worried a little bit if the new characters or the children would be annoying, but they didn't end up being, so I was definitely pleasantly surprised with that. But overall, just great action, great effects. It's such an immersive experience that cannot be underplayed, and because of that, it's number 8 on the list. So for number 7, Prey. Now, this is just such a great rejuvenation of the franchise, and it's so exciting to see people finally come back into the Predator camp. I'm a huge fan of Predators. I really like Alien vs. Predator. Obviously Requiem's not great. 2018 Shane Black Predator was just such a misfire when I would have guaranteed that it would have been a slam dunk for him. It was just such a letdown, but Prey kind of goes back to its roots, and I think that franchises like Alien and Terminator can definitely learn a thing or two from what Prey did by just keeping the budget lower, keeping the concept a little bit more simple, not feeling like they have to release a $100 million movie every time they make a new entry in the franchise, because it's not a business model that'll win. So the movie had a lot of tension, had great action, had great suspense, and of course the Predator gore and violence was just at the top of its game. So I really enjoyed it, and that's why it's number 7. So number 6, this one's kind of complicated because it's a movie I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for putting on this list, but I'm actually one of the few, one of the proud, not really proud, but I am one of the few that love Thor: Love and Thunder. So a lot of the criticism that I see about this movie is that Thor regresses, or that he's dumb this time, that his arc is just on a treadmill, but I would disagree. I think that he's really grown these last few movies, especially after Infinity War and Endgame. He kind of is at this reset point, and I think that it keeps pretty consistent with his character. He still has a pretty high level of nobility, and although he still has similar flaws, he struggles with things like trying to find himself, figure out who he is. He has that arrogant side that gets him into trouble and causes him to be destructive. But this is a movie where he was really able to reconcile his past, and I just found it to be a really nice ending for Jane Foster's character. I wish that there was a little bit more of Gore the God Butcher. I wish that they pulled the reins back a little bit on the comedy sometimes, but I think in the moments where it really mattered, the beginning, scenes with Gore, the scene at the end especially, I think that was just, it really got me. I really enjoyed it, and admittedly, I'm a huge Thor fan. I am a fan of Taika's vision of Thor. I'd probably rather see a different creative team and a different approach to the material if they do a Thor 5. But with this, I really enjoyed this movie. I like the action. I just love the character of Thor. He retains his heroism. He really does. And I think that it gets overlooked sometimes. I think that it's overhated. It's definitely one of my hottest takes, but I'm a huge fan of this movie, and I don't understand the hate that it gets. Now 5, this is difficult because I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I did figure that this one would probably be my number 2, if not number 1, when I first predicted what movies that I would like the most at the beginning of the year. But for number 5, I'm gonna go Nope. Now, I'm a huge fan of Get Out, huge fan of Us, and I think that although this is the weakest of the 3 movies, it still has the same excellent quality that the first 2 movies have. It's just so great to see original blockbusters get made, and this was one of them. It was a very exciting original blockbuster with original characters. Sometimes the pacing could get to be a little bit sluggish, but just the action and the intensity and the suspense, they just make up for it. I love the characters. I think that Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya were just amazing in this movie, and it just pretty much provided anything that you'd want in a summer blockbuster. Just action, scares, suspense, great characters, great levity when it's necessary, but not overdoing it. So this is a movie that I had a lot of fun with. It came in a little bit below what I would have hoped that it would come in at, but I'm still very happy with it. So for number 4, I'm cheating a little bit, but I feel like I just kind of want to put the two together because they really make up the entire picture of one story, and that would be X and Pearl. So we just get this great 1-2 punch from Ty West with X and Pearl, which just take place in completely different parts of time, but it's just the same character throughout different parts of her life, with X kind of having a little bit of mystery left over about who Pearl is. Pearl really fills in the gaps and kind of gives X more context, and that's why I feel like you just need to almost put them together, but it also made it easier to make it a top 10 list that I didn't have to put these in 2 separate spots. So overall, I'm probably a bigger fan of Pearl, but X still remains just basically the same quality. They kind of merge the more high concept horror, but it doesn't think it's above kind of the silliness or the tropes of slasher, so you get a movie that doesn't take itself way too seriously, but you still get a little bit of that elevated horror. So overall, I really appreciate these two, and I kind of felt like I had to cheat and merge them into one for the spot. Number 3, The Northman. Just what a badass metal fucking movie. And it kind of takes me back to the thing about Avatar. This is obviously kind of just a version of Hamlet, but I think it doesn't matter if the story's not original. If the way you tell it and the way you reach the destination is satisfying, badass metal, and you have great characters or a great world, and The Northman did all of that. It was a great retelling that just has a badass main character, and his journey is just awesome to watch. I am so enthralled when I watch this movie. Just the concepts, it's so far out there, so like weirdly psychedelic, but just so cool. I knew from the start that it would easily make my top 3, and of course it did. For number 2, the movie that definitely gained me a lot more traction when I reviewed it, Terrifier 2. So I just love to talk about this movie, and I love to see how much traction Art the Clown and the whole Terrifier franchise has gotten. It's just been such a joy to see this character escalate so much, and Damien Leone just fires on all cylinders. Each movie, each step he takes, he just improves on the last one. He really buckles down on his concepts, and each time he learns more. I have no doubt that Terrifier 3 is going to be just as good, if not better than 2, because he really learns each time what people want. First one, there wasn't that much Art the Clown, and people really resonated and loved Art the Clown. So for Terrifier, he gave us the full Art the Clown show, all the blood, all the gore. You know, people had some problems that there wasn't as much story or main character to follow, so he kind of used Terrifier 1 almost like a demo, and then escalated it to Terrifier 2, and this is where we get the full story. We get everything. We get a main character, final girl, who is equally as cool, equally as compelling as Art the Clown, and it just paves the way for this great story to follow. I think there's so much more to tell. There's a great setup for a mystery about what the Art the Clown actually is, or who he is, which I have my own thoughts and theories about, but overall, just such a fun movie, so exciting to see it get the amount of popularity and traction that it's getting, and just also very metal, very violent, just everything you could want in a slasher movie. Actually reigned the king himself on his own month during Halloween Ends, so that is just absolutely brutal. But for number 1, this was pretty much a lock from day one. It's The Batman. Now, I went into this movie wanting to love it, and I got everything I wanted, and I don't think that I'm just being blinded by my own fandom or love for Batman. I still watch this movie, and my opinions haven't changed. I feel like with a movie like Spider-Man No Way Home, I feel like I can kind of acknowledge the flaws with that movie a little bit more. But with The Batman, it makes for a great watch every time. The mystery is always just as much fun to see, and you pick apart and notice everything, notice more the more times you watch it. So it's just one of those movies where there's always something new to unpack when you go back. This is also just a great new Batman. Robert Pattinson plays Batman, not even really Bruce Wayne, Batman, in just a dark way that I've always wanted to see Batman. I think that they should level the playing field in terms of Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, as Batman, and kind of see that duality a little bit more. But it does drive home the point that there really is no Bruce Wayne. There is just Batman. But he's still young, he's still developing his persona, and I think that he's going to learn to put on that facade in the sequels, and I think we're going to see this character develop further. But great first entry, great and terrifying, almost horror type villain with the Riddler. Really is a Jigsaw-esque character. It's a long movie and it never really drags when I go back and rewatch it. I'm just such a fan of this character and they just did him justice in this movie. I cannot wait to see more, and The Batman is my favorite movie of the year. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your top 10 favorite movies of 2022 are in the comments. Have a good one.